Now, before we start building tables, we need to know some building blocks, like data types. Data types describe exactly that, the type of data being stored. MySQL, like all relational databases, must have a well-defined schema. A schema being a blueprint of sorts that describes the table structures and the data and types held within the tables. Let's talk about three of MySQL's data types: numeric, date and time, and string. Numeric data types include integer, Boolean, float, double, and decimal, but also include bit, tiny int, big int, and others. The int types, like big int, are for different ranges of whole numbers. For example, int has a range of negative 32,768 to 32,767. And medium int has a range of 8,388,608 to 8,388,607. So depending on how large your numbers can get will determine the range you use when creating the tables. These are signed ranges, meaning negative numbers are allowed. The unsigned range, where negative numbers are not allowed, start at 0. Boolean types are true and false, or 1 and 0, where 1 is true and 0 is false. Float and double types are similar in that they both can be used to represent a decimal, like 1.30, where 1 is a whole number and the 30 is the fraction. How exact the fraction is called the precision. And in this case, there are only 2 spots after the decimal point, so it has a precision of 2. Floats can have a precision of up to 7, and doubles can have a precision of up to 14. Floats and doubles are approximate numeric values, whereas decimals are the exact numeric values, used when it is needed to preserve the exact precision, like monetary data. A string is any series of characters, spaces, punctuation, symbols, and numbers. String data types include char, binary, blob, text, enum, and set. Similar to int, there are some size variation fields like tiny blob, tiny text, and others. A char is a string that can contain up to 255 characters. Binary is a string representation consisting of only zeros and ones. There are also variable length types, varchar and binary, where char and binary types will always have a constant length, but varchar and binary will have a variable length. If you define your column as char 10, the data held in the memory will always have a column length of 10, regardless of the actual size of the data. Varchar and binary will only allocate the column length to be the actual size of the data held within. If you define varchar 10 and the data value is yes, or length of 3, then the column length of only 3 is allocated, not 10 like it would be for char 10, but the length cannot be greater than 10. A blob or binary large object can store large binary data like images, PDFs, and other multimedia types like video and audio files. Similar to blobs is text, which can store large text or string content. An enum is a predefined list of values, and the value of that column must be one of the predefined values. For example, if we have an employee table and one column is employee type, and we have defined the column to be an enum of full-time, part-time, terminated, or contractor, then when a new employee is added to the table, the employee type column must be one of these values, or the employee's insertion will fail. A set is similar to enum, but where an enum column can only have one of the enum values, with set you can have more than one of the predefined list of values. Date and time data types include date, date time, timestamp, time, and year. Date values are in the format of YYYYMMDD and used for when you need only the date part and not time. Time values are in the format of HH:MM:SS and used for when you need only the time part and not the date. Year values are in the format of YYYY and are used only when you need the year part of date. And date time values are a combination of date and time and are used when you need both date and time parts. Timestamp values are formatted the same as date time and are converted from current time zone to UTC for storage and then back to the current time zone for retrieval. where the current time zone is based on where the MySQL server is located. And what does UTC stand for, you ask? UTC is Coordinated Universal Time, which is a standard used to set all time zones around the world. For instance, New York City is the time zone UTC -5, meaning it is 5 hours earlier in New York City than a reading on a UTC clock, except during daylight savings when it's 4 hours earlier. Timestamp is used when you need date, time, and time zone. These data types are the building blocks of the tables that make up your database, and you will need to pick the most efficient ones to make up your database tables so that you will have optimal performance.